Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm sincerely honored to be with you, albeit virtually. Thank you for honoring me with your Goodwill Ambassador for China-U.S. Exchange Award. Thank you, Ju-Chen, for those kind words and introduction. I have been visiting China for almost 30 years, learning the country, building business and U.S.-China relations. I have a great appreciation and affection for Chinese culture and the Chinese people. I love America, my country, and I am personally committed to stable and mutually beneficial U.S.-China relations. We're in an important and evolving period in the relationship between the U.S. and China, which is the most important bilateral relationship in the world. The relationship is both troubled and lacks stability. And so one of the most important priorities, not just in the interest of our countries, but for the entire world, is that we restore active, thoughtful, and strategic diplomatic engagement between our two nations based upon reality, realpolitik, and not wishful thinking. We should both want to find a way to cooperate while we compete and, where necessary, defend our respective interests in a manner that maximizes the opportunity to avoid conflict while serving our respective interests. With the Biden administration, we have an opportunity to exchange views, understand how we each see the world, establish an agenda of priorities, and begin to address issues. In my judgment, each nation should appoint representatives who are knowledgeable in diplomacy and each other's respective countries and have the trust of our presidents. Our first objective is to understand more clearly how we each view the world today, our country's place in that world, our priorities and our objectives, and our respective concerns. Understand where our mutual interests lie and where they diverge, and understand how our respective behaviors and priorities create concern or threaten the other. We have deep political and cultural differences that cannot be easily reconciled. We have respective objectives that threaten or trouble the other. We also have much in common, including mutual dependencies that are deep. So fundamental, what kind of relationship do we want to have? And what kind of relationship are we capable of? We should want to frame an agenda for cooperation in areas of mutual interest, starting with simple ones for confidence building. We should also begin to solve problems that can be solved between ourselves and achieve better understanding while we defer those areas of profound differences that cannot be addressed now. Despite increasing trade, ideological, and security-related friction around technology and the rules of engagement, with calls for economic disengagement in both countries, many American companies remain committed to the China market for the long term. According to a U.S.-China Business Council survey, 83% of U.S. companies counted China as among the top 5 priorities for their global strategy. We recognize that members of the China General Chamber of Commerce are similarly committed to the U.S. market. The business and investing community in both countries has a role to play in encouraging our governments. Reciprocal rules-based trade and investment managed right should create jobs and opportunities in both countries. It binds our respective fates more tightly. The Phase 1 agreement provided a degree of positive news and confidence in the China investment environment by opening the market wider for financial services, investment, and protection of intellectual property. It serves the interest of each country and is a rare demonstration of cooperation through negotiation. Future bilateral negotiations should similarly be definitive and results-driven. In the area of scientific innovation and technology, we have growing tension. Predatory and lawless behaviors, and on the other hand, protectionist behavior to gain or maintain advantage in areas deemed important to national or economic security or to maintain superiority are hallmarks that define us today. The definition of national security and national interest is an interesting and difficult question. It varies depending on the intentions, values, and behavior of the other. Commonality around rules of engagement and adherence. Leadership in the global economy in the 21st century will be determined in part by technological capability. Notions of total decoupling and mismanaged competition will prove to be quite destabilizing. We need clear thinking, expectations, understandings, and rules of the road, which should be defined thoughtfully. In opportunities around trade and investment, reciprocity is an important notion. If one country uses a more restrictive definition, the other can't be expected to simply remain open. Trade and investment protections, protected by rule of law, with strong institutions to impartially administer them, and clear, predictable regulation remain fundamental. Chinese and American companies want certainty and clarity in terms of the ability to do business in each other's countries. Our countries were close at one time to finishing a bilateral investment treaty. Are we capable of returning to unfinished business? Do we each view it of value? At the end of the day, the more we invest in each other, the more we invest in each other's future well-being and the prosperity of our people. Lastly, our relationship goes far beyond trade and investment, and our two countries have important issues of mutual concern: global health, climate change, global economic recovery, terrorism, and nuclear proliferation, to name a few. Without leadership and cooperation between us, global solutions are not possible. At the most basic level, we both want the same thing: peace and prosperity for our people. How we find a path of accommodation in each of our own interests, recognizing the differences between our systems and cultures, is a question, not simply for our two countries, but the world. It begins with our two leaders who together need to meet in due course and agree upon an agenda for cooperation, resolution, and conflict avoidance. Thank you again for this honor, and best wishes to all of you for the Lunar New Year of the Ox.